Hello guys, welcome to this month's lease deals of the month. We've got some absolute stonkers in this one for you. We've got a few familiar faces but also some new ones, and there's some very quick cars in this sort of throughout. It's a bit of a theme actually, so I hope you enjoy the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Keep watching. Right, so we're going to follow the usual rules with this. So we're looking at cars on 3 plus 35 deals. So that's 3 months up front as your deposit, followed by 35 monthly payments. So you've got the car for its first 3 years, and then in theory it goes back before it's due for an MOT. And we're looking at 10,000 mile a month deals on a non-maintained basis, okay? So that means you pay for the servicing and everything. With most of these, there's the option to pay a little bit extra every month and get the cost of servicing and tyres and things like that all included within the lease. Right, but we're sticking to normal rules for this one, and we've got our usual categories. So we've got everything from little city cars through to big SUVs and exec cars, and a bit of everything in between. There are a lot of quick ones in it this month. Look out for those. Just before we get going, you'll see I've got some, over here, all the places you can follow me. So if you haven't already done so, you're watching this, subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm getting quite close now to the magic 1,000 subscribers, and I need every subscription I can get. So if you're watching this and you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, please. Also go over and check out my Facebook page, and also on Twitter. I'm probably most active on Twitter out of the two, to be fair, and that's at NotAGuru3. And also look in the description for this video and you'll find lots of ways you can support the channel. If you like the content and you'd like to see more of it, offer me a bit of support, and that could just be something as simple as clicking through my Amazon link, or you can use one of the companies that I choose to partner with. So we've got BOTB that do big car giveaways every week, and we've got Haynes Manuals. You can even just go on and buy me a coffee, which is much appreciated. Thanks to everyone that's done that so far. That's enough waffle and self-promotion. We'll get on to the content. Hope you enjoy, guys. So off we go with a brilliant deal on a great little car. This is the Bargain Hunter, and it's a Skoda Scala. It's the 1 litre TSI 95 horsepower SE spec, and it's a petrol manual front wheel drive car, and it's a great deal on this. So they've been up at like 218 quid a month, and this is 142 quid a month with 787 pounds down. I mean, that is a great price. So 0 to 60 is 10.9 seconds. It's not that terrible for like a small car with a small engine. It's got a 467 litre boot as well, so it's got a really decent sized boot. That's up there competing with like the Golf and an A3 Sportback and those kind of things. So it's a really like decent sized little car, a very practical one. Only 1,000cc. 120 mile an hour top speed, 95 brake horsepower, combined MPG of 61.4 is claimed. What's not to like, really? I mean, what is not to like about that car? I think the styling on them is really quite decent for what they are. It's definitely a step up from the old Fabias and whatnot. Yeah, look at that size boot. That's brilliant on a car of that size. I think Skoda are really good at really using all the interior space of their cars really well. So yeah, there we go. Nice little starter for 10, isn't it? The Bargain Hunter there. 142 quid. Wow. Right, the Super City car. I've mixed things up a bit here because I think this is such a great deal, but there are other great deals around. And as we got a slightly bigger Bargain Hunter car than we usually find, it's usually like Fiat 500 or a tiny little car, I just think this had to be in there. And as a city car, yeah, it's probably a bit bigger than you expect for a normal city car, but Nissan Leaf makes a massive amount of sense. This time last year it was 291 quid a month. It's now 239 quid a month with 700 up front, and they've got stock of this, so you could get a really quick delivery. There are lots of stock issues in the market at the moment because of this shortage of silicon chips that you might have heard about in the news and on the papers. It's affecting lots of different industries, but the automotive one is certainly included within that. But they've got these in stock, and it's a brilliant price. 239 quid a month, 717 quid up front. Can't grumble with that. Combined range 168 miles, 0 to 67.9 seconds, 150 horsepower, 435 litre boot. So again, it's got a good sized boot despite the fact it's full of batteries and what have you. And they're not too shabby, are they? And by all accounts, they're fantastic cars. There we go. Right, hatchback. Guys, just a super quick reminder to give the video a quick thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Please, thanks. So the hatchback's a bit hot this month. For the normal hatchbacks that would tend to feature, there's nothing sort of out of the ordinary that we haven't seen recently. There's some good deals on sale at Leon's and a few other bits and bobs, but I thought this is a good deal, and it's a bit of an interesting car. BMW 1 Series, it's the 128 Ti Steptronic Auto Live Cockpit Professional, so it's got the, the digital instrument cluster and everything. The upgraded one of those. A petrol automatic front wheel drive. 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds. 265 brake horsepower. 380 litre boot. And these were like 389 quid. They're now down to 336 quid with 1243 up front as your first payment. Brilliant cars. Look the mustard, don't they? I think I've mentioned before on here how much I like the new 1 Series, sort of visually. I think they've really sort of stepped up their game with it. And yeah, it's very, very nice. Certainly better looking than some of the other new BMWs, which are a bit Marmite at the moment. Some of them are rough looking, I think. But yeah, this one's very nice. Yeah, good deal. 336 quid a month. And like I say, it's a bit hotter than we would usually expect in this category in the videos. But yeah, it's a brilliant performing car, isn't it? 6.1 seconds to 60. Whoa. Right, the crossover. It's a RAV4. So let's have a look at this. So 0 to 60 on one of these is about 8.5 seconds. And it's your mild hybrid, so you don't have to plug this one in. So much like that technology that you get in other Toyotas like Prius and Lexus sort of hybrid technology. So you don't have to plug it in. It's a CVT automatic gearbox. They're not always the most popular, but to be fair, in something like this, I think it's perfectly adequate. It's the front wheel drive version rather than all-wheel drive. But look at the price, £1,000 up front and then 276 quid a month. That's a really, really decent price for one of these. And that's a big car for 270 quid a month, isn't it? Very big car. And yeah, they've got, I know styling wise, they're possibly a little bit Marmite, but they've certainly got a bit of presence, and they've certainly got a uniqueness to them, I guess. They don't look like everything else, do they? But I mean, I don't think they're hideous things to look at all. But they don't fall into that trap that so many do, where they just look like every other. So I think they're quite interesting cars. Brilliant price, £1,000 up front, 276 quid a month. That's a £31,000 car. I mean, that's great value, isn't it? 31 grand car for 276 a month. Whew. Okay, the EV. So we've got the VW ID3. So I've discussed these on the channel before, but it's basically, if you like, VW's electric Golf replacement. So this is sort of their futuristic looking EV Golf variant, if you like. 110 kilowatt life pure performance, 45 kilowatt hour, 5-door automatic obviously. 0 to 60 in 8.9 seconds, 150 horsepower, 310 newton meters of torque. So kind of as you would expect there, 385 litre boot, which is about normal for this kind of car. These were sort of 390 quid a month, and we're down to 280 quid a month with just under 1100 up front. So you can see the trajectory of the price in there. I mean, it's really dropped a hell of a lot over the last month. So yeah, it's a good price at the moment, and it's a factory order. So I think with any of these factory order cars now, you need to be asking the question of when, because if it's a car or a brand that's affected by this microchip shortage, then you could have a long wait. So I think it's very important that you get a clear idea of how long it's going to take to get to you when you're ordering the thing. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant price, and I mean, the styling for me, I felt like they should have been a bit bolder with it. And I look at some of the other companies and what they've done, like Hyundai with that Ioniq 5. And, they've been a bit braver, where I feel like this is someone said to someone at VW, watch a couple of sci-fi films and then draw a Golf from 2025 or a Golf from 2035. And they've come up with this. It's not an unattractive car at all. They're good looking cars. For me, I thought it was a bit obvious. But yeah, that's a great price, whatever, and a great car for that much money, to be fair. What have we got next? We've got the quick one. I know it is a quick one. So it's the Cupra Leon, the 2 litre TSI 300 horsepower VZ3 spec. So VZ3 with the Cupras, that Cupra brand, VZ1 is the lowest spec, VZ3 is the high spec. And it's the DSG, so the automatic gearbox. And price wise, they've been sort of all over the shop really, but they started off earlier this year at 484 quid a month, and they've sort of gone up and down a bit. They've been a lot cheaper than they are at the moment, in fairness, but for hot hatches at the moment, I think it's still one of the best value for money deals out there. So you're looking at 0 to 60 of 5.7 on this one, 300 horsepower, as I said, 400 newton meters of torque, 50 litre fuel tank, 380 litre boot. And I mean, that thing is absolutely lightning, and evidently a brilliant driving experience as well. And I've heard this badge getting a lot of stick from people, saying it looks too much like Transformers and some kind of Marvel superhero. I personally really like the styling. I think it's quite a clever move. I think it was maybe seen as a bit of a bland brand, and I think the Cupra thing has made it appeal to a younger audience and a different audience. So yeah, I think it's cool. I like those cars a lot, and once again, 385 quid a month for something with 300 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 5.7. That's not too shabby, is it? What do we have next? We've got the Exec. Now this one is a familiar face. It's the 7 Series. So it's the 730D, and it's a mild hybrid turbo, automatic gearbox, obviously. So 1,687 quid up front, followed by 562 a month. And obviously it's an expensive car, but what would that thing cost you to buy brand new? I mean, that's a serious money car, isn't it? Car details, let's have a look. 5.9 seconds to 60, even in something that weighs, what is it, a couple of thousand kilos. 78 litre fuel tank, 286 horsepower, 650 newton meters of torque. Wow. 155 mile an hour, rear wheel drive, and I mean the automatic gearbox in these BMWs, it's the 8-speed, is probably the best on the market. In fact, it is the best on the market, let's face it. Price-wise, these have been up as high as nearly 700 quid a month in the last 12 months, like 680 quid a month. And down, I think the lowest have been is about 535 by the looks of it. And it's up at 562, so I mean it's a brilliant value deal. If you just once again think about the new price of that car, which is about 70 grand. I think they start at like 69 grand, 70 grand. And you'll get that for 560 quid a month. I mean, a huge beast of a car. You don't get much more road presence than one of those things. But yeah, that's a £70,000 car. And you can get it for 1,700 up front, 560 quid a month, and then send it back. I will just mention, because it'd be rude of me not to, wouldn't it? But yeah, the Audi A6, there's still brilliant deals on those. Look at this one, a grand up front, 350 quid a month. In stock, and it's the 40 TFSI Sport, 0-60 in 7.3, 200 horsepower. What more do you want, really? Okay, I just thought I'd mention that because I know I mention the A6 a lot, and those deals have been around for a while now, but the fact there's one in stock, or some in stock, and it's still a great price and perhaps a more realistic option than the 7 Series for a lot of people. Midlife Crisis, here we go. Woo! We've got a Jag. So it's an F-Type Coupe Jag. 2 litre P300 R Dynamic Auto. So if you had to design like the classic sports coupe, 2-seat or 2+2, you'd pretty much draw one of these, wouldn't you, if you were that good at drawing? So I mean, it's a gorgeous style car. They look absolutely brilliant. Yeah, fantastic looking cars. And let's have a look at the specs on it. 300 horsepower, 0-60 in 5.7, 400 newton meters of torque. It's only a 2 litre petrol engine. So it's funny, so we've got cars that perform like this elsewhere on the list, but it's the styling really, isn't it? And you know, if you were in the market for a midlife crisis, this would be a great car to have it in, I feel. 2,300 quid up front, 696 quid a month. So it has been, it was down at 615 last October, but September last year it was 762. So the price fluctuates a hell of a lot on these, but I think it's a reasonable deal at the moment, to be fair, for that kind of car. And again, think about the list price. I'm not sure about this particular model, but they start around about 53 grand off the top of my head, 55 maybe. And yeah, £55,000 car is a lot of money, isn't it? So I don't think it's a bad deal. And honestly, this one could be a lot more than that. Right, that's enough midlife crisis-ing for a day. Let's go for the next one, which is the SUV. And it's a big SUV this time. What is it? It's a Range Rover. Range Rover Sport Diesel. And it's the 250 HSE. So HSE is a reasonable spec level on a Range Rover. About 65 grand to buy one of these, something like that. 63,285 to buy one of these. It's a lot of money, isn't it? Or you can have one for just under 2 grand up front and then 658 quid a month. I think I'd rather do that. And tech spec wise, what have we got? Performance 0 to 60 in 8.5. It's not terrible, is it? For when you think of the weight of that car and the sheer heft of the thing. And combined MPG about 34. I mean, you're not going to get that realistically, are you? I wouldn't have thought anyway. But I don't know, with a Range Rover as well, Land Rover, any kind of Land Rover product really, I'd rather have one new than second hand, just for the simple fact that they kind of break a bit sometimes, or they certainly have a reputation for it. There'll be loads of people out there that have had brilliant experiences with Land Rovers, but equally, if you look at the kind of horror stories and the brands that have had more horror stories than any, just go to a Land Rover forum and you'll read some absolutely hideous stories that, you know, would bring a tear to a glass eye really. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to have on a lease. Just like me with, you know, my thing with French cars, I'd have a new one on a lease, but I wouldn't want a second hand one. Just my thing. Okay, what do we go on to next? It's the wild card. It's the one we've all been waiting for. Is it wild this month or is it mild? You know, sometimes we see a mild version, sometimes we see a wild version. So I've gone somewhere sort of in between. This is a very sensible car, I must admit, but it still performs a little bit. It's just a really good deal. We've had some very sporty cars in this edition so far. So we've gone for the BMW i3 for the wild card. It's the 135 kilowatt S, 42 kilowatt hour, electric, obviously automatic, rear wheel drive. See, these have been up around 418, 415 earlier in the year. 332 quid, thank you very much. 1,100 quid up front, 332 quid a month. That's very good, isn't it? So combined range of 175. 184 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 6.9, 0 to 62 in 6.9. Only a 260 litre boot though. That's sort of the biggest failing, I guess, of the i3, is that it doesn't have a big boot. Again, a bit Marmite in terms of looks. I think they're like just mental looking things, but in kind of a good way. And the cabin in them's really nice. If you've never sat in one, try. Just go to a BMW dealership and go and sit in an i3, and it's such a clever bit of design, and the space has been used so well. And yeah, very cool. And that design's been around for a long time now. You've got to think some of the EVs out here are very new to the market, where the i3's been around for a long, long time now. And to me, it's still a really cool piece of design. Even if it's not your cup of tea to look at, you know, it's brave, isn't it? And bold. And the interior is just well thought out and well put together. So yeah, a grand up front, 1100 up front, and 332 quid a month. That is fantastic value, that car. And could have been a contender in several of the categories in this video. And I just decided to put it in as a wild card because I felt there were also strong contenders already elsewhere in. That's the end of the deals for the month. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments which one of those you'd like and which one of them you think is madness and why. And yeah, please like and subscribe. Please try and support the channel as much as you can by sharing and liking and joining in a bit with social media and what have you. The more thumbs up I get on every platform, the better. And I'm really striving to get those 1,000 subscribers now. So please tell a friend, please promote it for me. And if you haven't already done so, just subscribe. Thank you. And that's about it for this one, guys. Thanks ever so much for watching. Thanks for all the support, and see you next time.